Good morning, MACC kids. How are you? Hope you're having a great Sunday. I hope you enjoyed Miss Elise telling us about Paul and his conversion last week. That was so exciting, hearing him go from an enemy of God to a servant of Jesus. So today we're going to be looking at the first mission trip in the Bible that Paul goes on. So first I wanted to ask you if you remember our big picture question, which is, how do people hear about Jesus? Does anyone have an idea? People hear about Jesus when Christians tell them about Jesus. And so we are all on mission in our lives to share the good news of Jesus with those around us and those in our lives. But some people go to a different place than the place that they were born to share the gospel. They go to a faraway place, and those people are called missionaries. Can everyone say missionaries? Missionaries. So I was thinking of a few of my favorite missionaries. For an example, one of my favorites is Amy Carmichael. She was born in Ireland, and she spent most of her life in India, sharing Jesus's love with kids there. Another one is Hudson Taylor. He was born in England, and he went to China and started a mission there to share the gospel of Jesus. Another one is Mary Slessor. She was born in Scotland, and she went to Nigeria and served kids there and shared the news about Jesus. And then the missionaries we are looking at today are Paul and Barnabas. And we're going to be looking at their mission trip, which is in Acts chapter 13. So let me look at that with you guys. So they were starting out in Antioch, and their trip took them to a place called Lystra. So they went there to tell people about Jesus, and they started by praying for a man who couldn't walk. And they prayed for Jesus to heal him, and he did. And the man who had never walked before was able to walk. And when the people saw that Paul and Barnabas had prayed for him and a miracle happened, they thought that Paul and Barnabas were gods. So they started worshiping them. And Paul and Barnabas said, "No, don't worship us. We're here to tell you about the one true God, Jesus." So they were able to share the gospel in that way. But then some people showed up that had been in Antioch with Paul and Barnabas, some people that didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. And they started stirring up the people in Lystra to turn against Paul and Barnabas. Even though they just saw them heal a man, they had some of the people turn against them, and they started making trouble. So much so that the people started throwing stones at Paul and Barnabas, and they threw stones at him until the people thought he was dead, and they dragged him out of the city. But he wasn't. God protected him, and when the believers gathered around him, Paul was able to get up, and he was okay. And he didn't go home either. They kept going, and they went to a place called Derbe, and they told people about Jesus there. And they encouraged the believers that even though hard things happen, they get persecuted. Paul got hurt, but he didn't stop. He said he knew that when Jesus was there in John 15:20, Jesus said, "They persecuted me, they'll persecute you too." So Paul already knew that can happen. And Jesus also said in the Sermon on the Mount in Luke 6:22, he said, "Blessed are you when men hate you and revile you and cast you out and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for indeed your reward is great in heaven." So persecution was not going to stop Paul and Barnabas from sharing the gospel. So they encouraged the new believers that they should continue sharing the gospel no matter what. And so we can do that too. Every day, no matter where we are, we can share the good news of Jesus. And thankfully, in our country, we won't probably get harmed for doing that. So even more reason to tell people about Jesus and share the good news of what he's done for us, that he died for our sins so that we don't have to die. He paid the price for us, and now we can have him in our hearts and live with him for eternity. So that's great news, and I encourage you to share it with anyone who might not know it. I hope you have a great day, guys, and I will see you next week.